Well, hi Karley, thank you so much for agreeing to be part of Imagine Better's campaign about what it means to be an ally in the disability rights movement. It's Tony Paine, Imagine Better CEO, talking here to Karley Parker. Karley, wondering if you could just quickly introduce yourself and talk about what you're up to.
Kia ora, I'm Karley. I live in Dunedin. I've been here for about 7 or 8 years now. What am I up to? I am working on a campaign called Free Fares to Freedom, and that's about creating accessibility for people with access needs to reach their potential in the community. I'm passionate about well-being for people with access needs, and yeah, that's pretty much me.
Thanks, Karley, that's great. Do you want to talk a little bit about, as you know, we're exploring the idea of what it means, particularly for non-disabled people, to be an ally in the disability rights movement and an ally to disabled people. What does that concept mean to you? What does it mean to you to be an ally in the disability rights movement?
For me, being an ally means that I guess it all relates to being human and having that humane kind of etiquette towards one another and treating each other with kindness and openness, and not judging a book by its cover, I guess, what an ally would mean to me.
And if you were talking to non-disabled people who were wanting to support disabled people in their struggle for human rights and to be part of the social changes that we need to create a world that's accessible and inclusive and a world that's not a disabling world, what would your advice be to those people? What would you say to someone who was a non-disabled person who was wanting to be part of that?
Well, first of all, I would say welcome. It's been a long road, and through history we've seen that society has been a disabling place for many New Zealanders and around the world. So, the campaign that Accessibility is running, or is it Imagine Better?
Imagine Better.
Imagine Better are running. It's just an awesome campaign to really get involved and ask yourselves, what is it that I can do? And not only to yourselves, but those around you with access needs. I think it's really important to have that curiosity and, to be willing to learn is the main thing.
One of the things that seems associated to the idea of being active and wanting to create social change, whether you're someone with lived experience of disability or a non-disabled person, is that we are united by a desire to live in a world that's fair, that it's equitable, that everyone gets to participate, no one gets left out or left behind. And one of the things that certainly Imagine Better we've been thinking of is the idea of ableism, the idea that we live in a world that's designed by non-disabled people for non-disabled people, and that we non-disabled people have intentionally and unintentionally created barriers and have attitudinal issues and have been part of creating a world that is hard for some people to participate in. What's your understanding of the phrase ableism? What does ableism mean to you?
The notion of ableism really means to understand your own values before portraying any kind of prejudice or oppression towards someone with an access need or any kind of difference to you. It's really important for me as a person with lived experience with an impairment or access need, or whatever your language is to describe that, to really connect with those who want to make a change, or just to be curious and know what it's like for me in my world. For non-disabled people, it's just about that openness to learn and to understand why you think the way you do towards someone that's different from you. So it's really important for non-disabled people to just be open and I suppose it's really easy just to say, just to be open and be kind and everything like that, but at the end of the day, it's knowing your why and why you react the way you do. So to be inclusive really would be to, it's not just about inviting someone to an event or whatever else. It's making sure that for an event, the invitations are accessible to a way that person requires, whether that be in braille or large print or anything like that. I use my own examples because that's the only thing I've got to offer. Like everyone's different. So yeah, to be an ally and to be in this ableist community that we're trying to create, it's just really important to understand the person for what they need and what they want, and that goes for everyone, disabled person or non-disabled, even within employment. So people who have disabilities are quite often segregated and not employed, but we actually work so much harder just to not prove our worth, but because we're so willing to be involved and to make a difference in our community, we just need a chance. And some of us are really, really fortunate enough to have those opportunities and experiences, but quite a lot of the time that's not the case. So for me, I think it's really important to think about, as a non-disabled person, your actions, and if something's not accessible, what does that mean? Is it physically inaccessible, or through technology, or whatever way? It's about that universal design and making sure it's the right fit for the person. So ableism to me is not only equality, it's equity. And that's something that I value within myself, is that equity and getting to know people for them, and just exploring what life means to them, really.
What would you say, what's the difference to you between equity and equality? How does that differ?
Equality would be making everything equal for every person, and I think that's where, from my understanding, that's where a lot of non-disabled people get confused with ableism. So using myself as an example, if I was in a workshop or work environment or anything with another low vision person, and if we had the same large print but I learned braille, it's not accessible to me, but it's made, the equality is there, but the equity, knowing the person's differences and what they need, braille versus large print or audio, for example, so it just, there's a huge difference for me between equality and equity, and knowing the difference between the two and the notion of ableism, and just making sure that it's really identified the person's strengths and what they can access and why they need it, like in a material that's accessible to them.
Mm-hmm. Do you think in the movement for change and the all the the political lobbying that's being done, and we'll talk a minute about the campaign that you're running and things like that, are there some things that you think non-disabled people can't do or shouldn't do as we're sort of working together for change?
The first thing that pops to mind would definitely be language, and that's pretty huge for me. I remember writing in the wee blurb for Imagine Better that language is a huge barrier and something that we historically have held on to through the medical model of disability. We had segregation within hospitals and everything like that, and the words to describe people that have an access need were horrendous. I don't even really like mentioning the words, but we've moved into the society where it's the social model of disability, and yep, that's getting there, but the individuals are, at the centre of what needs to change, and being able to speak out about, what I need takes a lot of courage in the world. I have grown up trying to fit into a sighted world and to tick these boxes that are, there for a reason, but I don't necessarily understand the reason, but I still need to perform in this way. And it creates a lot of burnout and not really understanding my identity and where I fit in the world and why I fit in the world. With the language and the tick boxing and everything that I was talking about, I think just holding that prejudice and oppression towards someone with an access need, but also letting go of all of the stigma and everything that society has told us, because with ableism there isn't anything that can really go wrong with inclusion and involving people. So I don't think that there's anything that would be overstepping when it comes to inclusion. I think that it's really important to take different ideas and opinions when forming your own opinion and identity and your place within ableism. So just getting different points of view is really helpful. So I don't think there's anything wrong with just getting involved.
Great. Obviously to create an inclusive world, a world free from ableism, there are a whole lot of places where that those changes are needed. Education and employment and housing, and you mentioned that you've been focusing on transport over the last little while. Do you want to just say a bit more about that campaign and perhaps how people can get involved and what change you're hoping to see there?
Yeah, for sure. So my friend and colleague, Ari, we worked together a few years ago on the Retina Youth Committee board, and I've stepped away since, but we realised a need over last year's lockdown that taxi travel was actually free during lockdown for people who held a mobility card, and it was quite a surreal time and kind of ironic because we were set free in the world that was in lockdown. So we were able to access places as we came out of lockdown. Of course, we were able to access places like we'd never been able to before. We've heard people's stories about how they've been able to go for a taxi ride a few neighbourhoods away just because they can, and they haven't visited their old neighbour in 30 odd years because they've never had the ability to travel there. And we just saw this opportunity to really ask the question, why are we still being held back with travel? We understand that free fares we don't deserve everything free because we have an access need. We're thinking more free as in free thinking and the ability to choose and control and lead our own lives. So we've created this campaign to really get people thinking and collaborating and having different conversations about what it means to access the community, and hopefully bring that to Parliament and just really get ourselves out there as people in the access community really saw a big change during lockdown. We want that to continue. We've felt that people with access needs are always in lockdown, so it's it just kind of, we just want to change that, and we see the need and we're going for it. We've nearly gone a year now and we're collaborating with some awesome people and organisations and getting different opinions and advice on where to go and what to do. So yeah, we're only going to keep going with it. So if you can support us, that'll be awesome. We're on all media platforms, free fares to freedom. So yeah.
Well, thanks. We'll put a link in with in the description of this video when we play it as well, because it's a campaign that we support as well. I like the way you talked about freedom. You know, this is about freedom. It's not so much about money, although of course money can be a barrier to so much. But the idea of freedom and I guess the idea that inclusion and accessibility is a creation of a freedom that sadly we don't all enjoy. I wonder if we can just finish by, you know, you're obviously focused on transport at the moment and that particular avenue and aspect of freedom. But what are some of the other big changes that you think are most urgent to create a world where we all enjoy that freedom, where we, you know, some people don't have to think about access? What are some of the other big changes that you'd like to see progressed?
I would like to see big change in tertiary education and the way that we can access that, and just encourage to actually train and get involved in the world and have accessible placement opportunities. Education, especially tertiary, is one that is close to my heart. You know, I wouldn't be here without it. But it's something that needs great change. People with access needs are well supported within primary school and high school, and then it kind of drops off after high school. So just being able to have that transformative change within the education, and having education for lecturers on how to work best with people that have an access need or learn differently, because that's really important, and that's something that out of high school, you know, we choose where we want to be. And quite often that's the first real exposure to exclusion. So, and it really shouldn't be like that. So I think a huge change is needed within tertiary education.
Karley, that's fantastic. Look, thank you so much for your time and for your activism, for being part of one of the young change makers who's at work in our community, and really want to wish you all the best for that. And I know that's something that will continue for as long as you're able to carry on fighting. So thank you for that, and thank you for sharing some of your thoughts about the ideas around being an ally in this really important disability rights movement. Thank you so much.